Alright, today I'm going to be showing you guys how to properly clean a console, specifically a PlayStation. Real quick show of hands, how many people here play video games on a regular basis? Okay, kind of what I expected. And how many of you guys clean your console on a regular basis? How many of you cleaned it in the last 2 weeks? Okay, well, I'm glad I'm doing this today. I really wanted to do this today because a lot of people really don't understand the importance of keeping your console clean. It can mess up a lot of stuff, like when you're playing a really graphics heavy game, it can mess up your frame rate, it can mess up the well, it can really just mess up a whole lot of things, and all in all. But when it comes to taking it apart and actually getting into the hardware itself, a lot of people really get nervous about it. They don't want to mess anything up. They don't want to break anything. They don't want to snap any wires. They don't want to lose any screws and all that stuff. But I want to show you guys how easy it is actually to take specifically a PS5 apart. So I'm going to get right to it. First off, you want to make sure that the ports on the back are facing you and lay it on its right side. And this part was a little jarring for me when I first started. You lift up one corner and another and just slide down. The first time you do that, it is going to be a little jarring because these make a really loud snapping noise, pretty much showing that it's your first time taking it apart. Next, you're going to want to take off this little grill part right here. And I will say, be careful with this, because the first time I did it, I used a screwdriver to pry it off and I broke a couple of those little plastic bits at the top. So best motion, a pull and upwards, pull up. Next, we're gonna take off this little grill part right here, these 4 little screws. And what you'll need for that is a T9 security bit screw. I had a lot of trouble finding one just because it's such a small screw, but I did have to buy a whole pack of 20 others just to get through it, but it works out. It worked out. They do sell cleaning kits online, I saw, way after the fact. So maybe you guys have better luck doing that than I did, having to buy an entire 20 pack of these screws. And one thing I do recommend when taking apart your console too is keeping track of these screws, because these aren't really the easiest to come by at all. I know from my PS4, when I first took it apart to clean it, I lost 2 of the screws and I never saw them again. So my plate, my front facing plate, only had 2 screws holding it in on the corners, and it was a hassle. It was a hassle, I will say that. And make sure you're staying organized with how you put this back together too, because it does have a specific way to do it. So just place your screws and your little grill part however you prefer. All right, with this, all you do is take the fan out like that. That's the cool thing about the PS5. The way they made it super easy to actually clean it, get it out and clean it, and then the heat sink as well. It's gonna be really hard showing you, but in here, towards the back, is this little grill pattern. That's the heat sink. That's the part you're really gonna wanna pay attention to and make sure you get all the dust and debris out. The fan itself is relatively easy. Just take one of these. I see people just using the compressed air. They'll use the microfiber cloths or a toothbrush to get it out. But make sure your fan is clean, and then when you open it up to get to the heat sink, all right here, once you, be careful with the fan because those wires are very, very delicate. Once you get to the heat sink, just blow it out, and it'll all come out of this back exhaust part right here. And then after you get the heat sink cleared out, pretty much just take a microfiber cloth, wipe out any of the bigger debris, or if you really want to be thorough, you can use a toothbrush or ear swabs to clean out the fan. I don't really, personally, I don't really like care to do that because it's too much little detail for me. But as you can see, my fan is relatively clean. There's still some like dust left on here that the air compressor won't get out, but it really isn't an issue. So, like I said, once you get all the debris, once you get all of the excess dust out of this little chamber, the heat sink and the fan, you're pretty much all good. That's literally all it is. And that took maybe, what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to do? And you just gotta make sure you put everything back together the right way as well. So each screw goes into their prior spot. Because they are also varying sizes too. This one's a lot longer than this one. Ooh, I dropped it. This one's a lot longer than this one. And like I said, there are different cleaning kits that you can buy online that have everything you'll need, including smaller screws. I use right now I'm just using I'm using a electric screwdriver because it just saves more time. It's a lot easier for me personally than using a hand screw. Another thing that I wanted to mention too when cleaning out your console is make sure you're keeping track of all your parts. Make sure you put it back together right, because you don't want to end up messing something up like snapping a wire, because then you're going to be really out of luck. That should be good. All right, put this little grill on. And when you put this back on, make sure you look at the edges, because they do have these little, like, I don't know what these are called, but there's a specific area where you put these two edges in so that it can all just snap back into place. Front facing plate, start lower than you think you need, slide up, and it'll snap right back up. And pretty much that's all there is to it. Not yet. I do want to mention that on this other side, once you take this plate off, there are going to be two little chambers here and here in the middle, up on the corner and towards the middle, that are like excess dust catchers. All you need to do for those are, you can take a air compressor to shoot it and clean it out, or you can use a vacuum, which I did use and it worked no problem for me, so I didn't really have any issues with that at all. But also, quick side notes as well, when you are determining where you put your console, it's very important to think of where their vents are. So just mine are in the back, and these front slits right here. You don't want to put it like in a really closed off area. You want it to be able to have enough room to bring in that air to cool off all of those internal components. And then you want to make sure that you're not, this is just a personal preference. I put mine higher up rather than close to the ground, because I feel like that's where a lot of dust settles on the ground. So that makes your console bring a lot of it in through there and through here. So it can mess it up a lot faster, especially if you don't clean it on a regular basis. I'd recommend maybe once every 2 weeks, once every week if you're really thorough about it. But other than that, yeah, I'm finished.